everybody out there listening, a very warm White Cat welcome, because you're tuned in to the White Cat Outdoors podcast. White here. What's going on, everybody? This is episode 14 of the White Cat Outdoors podcast. Hope everyone's still staying safe and practicing your social distancing with all this corona bull crap going on. I'm sure everyone's really enjoying that, but the great outdoors is never closed, so you can always get outside. So let's who's sitting at the table? We got the shape master over here, Tom Soboleski.
It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
And we got the other guy over there, Nick Soboleski.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And our guest in studio today is a guy that you've already met before in a previous episode. It's my father, Frank Myers.
Good evening, everybody.
So yeah, what we're talking about today, basically, we're going to just give a rundown of, since show season just ended, we're going to talk about booking hunts, different things you can do for preparing for these hunts, and then we're going to talk about some DIY stuff towards the end. So we're basically just going to give a big rundown of different hunts to plan, how to go about doing it.
So, Uncle Frank, you've been on the other side of booking hunts and scheduling hunts for quite some time now. Maybe you want to go into a little bit of insight on, you've gone to the show, you found a few hunts that you're interested in doing. You've talked to the guys now. I'm assuming maybe there's a follow-up call after the season when you decide that's when you want to go. Maybe start from there. You've made the phone call. You've decided where you want to go, and then now move into, all right, what do I need for the hunt? What's it going to cost? That kind of thing.
Well, probably, if you've chosen where you're going to go, all right, and you've picked out your outfitter or the hunt that you're going to do, and I guess for now let's concentrate on assuming that you're going on a guided hunt.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. My advice then is talk to your outfitter, and most of them are going to have a list of items to bring, and this is probably where more guys get into trouble than anything is that outfitter's going to hand them, here's what you need to bring for your 7-day hunt or your 10-day hunt or your 14-day hunt. And inevitably, people will show up with twice the amount of gear that was on that list.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can't begin to count the number of times we've gone into the field, day one of a moose hunt. We'll just call it moose hunting.
We'll say that's your expertise, so we can definitely we can sugar or stay on that path. But it's a generalization.
This is a generalization, hunts. Correct. So, but day one, everybody's anxious. We wake up. It's 3 hours before it's going to get daylight, and everybody's packed and ready to go, and they're eating breakfast, and they're standing by the boat before, the sun even starts to come up. And they have got a backpack that they've brought down to the boat for what's going to be, at best, a one-day hunt, if not, possibly, a lot of times we might be doing a 5 or 6 hours in the morning and maybe take a break in the afternoon and do another 4 or 5 hours in the evening, something like that. But they will inevitably have 50, 60 pounds of gear stuffed in this little backpack that they swear they've got to have to get through the day.
Well, and you're carrying that pack for them. That's part of what the guide does.
No, I have the gear that they need.
Oh, so you bring everything.
Everything they have is extra. I mean, beyond a pair of binoculars, their rifle, ammunition, and a knife. Maybe you want to have your raincoat in your pack, but...
Yeah, you don't need to carry that much stuff.
I mean, I've had guys come out that carry a full change of clothes down to their boots in that backpack. Now, I'm not quite sure why they thought they needed it all. But as the hunt progresses, by day 3, half of them are carrying an empty backpack. It's got some snacks in it, maybe a sandwich for lunchtime. But if guys would just learn to listen to that list of things that they need to bring and understand that, if you've done your homework and you've chosen a reputable outfitter who's got reputable guides, all that extra stuff you're carrying is already going to be there. So make your traveling a little more simple, make life while you're hunting easier, and listen to that list of gear that the outfitter tells you to bring. If he tells you need to bring a pair of knee-high rubber boots, then bring a pair of knee-high rubber boots. If he tells you need a pair of hip boots, you better bring a pair of hip boots. But if he tells you don't need hip boots, well, then there's no reason to bring 2 pairs of hip boots just in case one gets a hole in it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like a running joke up there with, all the guides up in Alaska that, we're up there for 2 months getting ready for moose season and stuff, doing different things, and we bring 60 pounds worth of gear, including our gun case, guns, everything that we have for the 2 months to survive up there. And the clients that come in have twice the amount of stuff we have for a 10-day moose hunt. It's like, how am I surviving for 2 months on this much, and you have twice what I have for not even half the time?
Yeah. It's so learn to take the advice of your outfitter that you chose. Bring what you need.
Not only just like you said on a day-to-day basis out into the field, but when you're packing to go up there, because it's going to cost you more money in the end on the plane when you overload your bags. So
absolutely.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to how much you're putting in. We had a guy this year, his gun case weighed over 100 pounds. It was insane how much stuff he had packed into his gun case. It was,
and in the end, one of the biggest things he had loaded in his gun case and in his duffel bags was candy.
Yeah, he had about 50 pounds worth of
candy. Snickers bars, Milky Ways, Power bars, granola bars.
So only the
bars.
Essentials, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, and he did. I mean, it was we couldn't believe how much really junk food that he brought up. That was stuff that's already supplied in camp. I mean, our outfitter already had candy bars and power bars and breakfast bars in camp.
All the food you could ask.
All the food you needed was there. So to lug up an extra, 30, 40 pounds of
junk
that in the end gets left behind because they don't want to fly home with it now.
Yeah, so it ends up just becoming property of the outfitter at that point.
Yep. Yeah. And every year we get boots left behind, coats left behind, gloves left behind. All kinds of stuff gets left behind because when the guys are going home, now they really don't want all that weight. Mm-hmm. And it's an amazing amount of gear gets left back in camp that they were, because now they're conscious of how much it's going to cost to fly back with this extra 50, 60 pounds of gear that they really never needed to have in the first place.
Yeah, and even beyond just like saving money, like if you're going somewhere like Alaska or somewhere where you have to take a little hopper plane, there's like a restricted amount of weight.
Absolutely.
Regardless, it's not like, well, if you want to bring that, it's going to be an extra $50. It's like, no, that's not going on the plane with you. So I mean, like, that's another thing. Like that's why that list is created.
And I've seen that. I've seen bags left. Back on the tarmac.
That list is created, so if you only bring those things, you can bring, that's going to fit on the plane. If you start loading other crap that you don't need, it could get left there.
Yes. Talk to your outfitter. He'll give you a list of what you need, and heed what his advice to you, regardless of who it is.
Yeah, and a lot of that overpacking comes from just people not knowing what to expect. So
correct.
As long as you do ask either people that have been up there in the past or talk to your outfitter, you'll have a really good idea. Like in, the first couple times I went up, I overpacked for stuff, just, not like a lot, but, I go up there for the 2 months that I'm up there, and I have, like I said, I had 50 pounds worth of clothes and stuff, and even that was too much. I realized that I had, overpacked, and, I've had somebody who's been going up there for 20 years telling me what to pack, so you can still get a little carried away even when you know what to bring. So just the more you talk to people to figure out, okay, these are the essentials of what I need, and that's basically all you need are the essentials, because if you're going with a good outfitter, they're going to supply you with all of the things that you're going to need throughout the hunt anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, like I've experienced that like on a little bit smaller of a scale, like even going up to hunting camp for, the rut for a week. Like when I was 12, 13 years old, I would bring a suitcase full of clothes, and then midweek I realized that I'm still in the same jeans that I showed up there with, and my suitcase hasn't even been opened yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is 7 years later. Now I go up there with like a drawstring bag of underwear, socks, and an extra pair of jeans just in case my original pair gets wet.
Well, and you mentioned the two most important things. If you're going to bring extra, socks and underwear.
Yeah.
That's the only place I'll ever recommend that you splurge, especially with the socks, because if you don't keep your feet in shape,
it'll make your hunt miserable.
Your hunt will get miserable fast, real fast.
Nick, you have a little story of not having prepared yourself with socks before a hunt, don't you?
Well, I mean, that was a one-day hunt. I wasn't really expecting much, but yeah, we were heading down to Allegheny State Forest in Pennsylvania on a turkey hunt, and the socks I threw on must have had a hole or something, or already worn out pretty good, and we were heading pretty deep in, and I understand, like, you can't go more than 5 miles in one direction in PA without hitting a road, but there was a lot of curves and bends in our deal. And we were a couple miles in where we wanted to set up for our first spot. And by about a mile and a half, I had worn through my sock. And
you had on a real good pair of steel toe boots for the walk.
For a long time, I didn't splurge on boots. I said, I will hunt in the same boots I work in. Because, being in high school, you don't have a ton of extra money, so you got to kind of make a dual-purpose deal out of them.
Steel toes make a great dual purpose.
Yeah. So I was using those and wore right through them, and we still had all day to hunt turkeys. And by the time we got back to the truck, we had done one of those, like a line on Onyx where it tracks your mileage, and it was just under 11 miles that we had walked that day. And I pulled my my boot off of my sock, and it was like dripping blood. Like, it wasn't just like worn through, it was like right into the meat. It was pretty rough, painful as well.
Yeah.
But
and those things only get worse day 2 and day 3.
As I said, that was a single day.
That's the day that it was going to be the most comfortable, the day you did the damage. After that, it's just going to get worse.
Every night it heals a little bit, and then you break through that. So, I would agree, pack extra socks and underwear
and
for sure.
And good socks, not crappy socks.
But, so, talk to your outfitters, pay attention to what they tell you to bring. They're going to have the big stuff. Anything you need for packing out animals, they're going to have. They're going to have the knives, the saws if you need something like that.
Are they going to have your, like, hard frames and that kind of stuff for backpacking, or does that kind of depend on your hunt?
Most of them will. And, again, it will probably depend a little bit on the outfitter you choose. And that's why I said it's very important to, you spent the time and chose this guy. Hopefully you chose the hunter or the outfitter that you chose because you did all your due diligence and homework to find out that this guy is going to be prepared for you in the field. If I'm gonna go with an outfitter and he tells me that I got to be prepared to do all this packing on my own, I got to have my own knives, my own saws, I got to have my own backpack. I'm going to start asking myself in the back of my head, well, what am I paying for?
And that does some of that would be, it could change if you're doing like a semi-guided hunt or a fully guided.
We're
correct.
Fully guided
Correct.
right now. That's you would expect to have that stuff provided.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to assume if I'm going on a fully guided moose hunt, that when I get there, there's going to be additional personnel in camp to help pack this thing out. You put a 1,500-pound animal on the ground, well, I don't know too many individual men that are going to handle that thing all by himself and get him out.
Tie your dragon rope to
woods and and back to the boat on a.
That'd be hilarious to bring like a drag rope on a moose hunt just to see what that guy does. Like you
tie that off around his back leg.
Like pull that out. Like that'd be one thing I might splurge extra just for the humor side of it.
But yeah, so it's like I said, pay it. Talk to your outfitter, talk to your guides if you can. Just because you booked an outfit, your hunt with a particular outfitter, that doesn't mean that individual is going to be your guide.
Or at camp at all. You may never even meet him again.
Well,
or
you'll probably meet him. Most places, the outfitters are expected to
make an appearance.
At least make an appearance.
And be there to sign paperwork.
In the state of Alaska, at least, the outfitter has to shake your hand in the field. So,
I did not realize that.
You will have to meet him at least one point in the field, even though you may be working with one of his guides or assistant guides or something like that. But you will meet your outfitter in the field in the state of Alaska. And I think most reputable outfitters are going to operate along those lines as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an outfitter, I'd assume you're very passionate about the animal you're targeting.
Correct.
So you'd want to be out in the field anyway. I mean, if I had a guide service in Alaska, I'd probably take full advantage of having to go to Alaska every week or every season to go meet the clients and that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes. So
once you've talked to your guide and put together your list, what kind of additional costs might you encounter besides like your price for the guide? Like that doesn't really cover your plane tickets or anything, does it?
In most cases, not. Again, every outfitting service may be slightly different. They may have different, and that is why a lot of times where you'll see large variations. And why is one outfitter charging me $5,000 to go on an elk hunt in Idaho, and another elk hunter's charge me what appears to me to be the same hunt, but it's $8,000? Well, maybe one outfitter included a few more perks in the cost of that hunt. So you got to kind of really watch that as when you're checking out your pricing and stuff like that. So, but typically when you write that check to an outfitter, you've covered the cost of the hunt. It doesn't usually include licensing. It doesn't usually include tags. Your travel expenses to and from a point in the state you're hunting. A lot of even if you're doing an elk hunt, a lot of outfitters will meet you at a town that they're going to pick you up, and from that point on, your costs are covered. Okay.
And taxidermy is obviously not covered.
Taxidermy,
as well. That's all on you.
Yeah, that's always going to be on you. A lot of times, getting your back home isn't covered.
Okay, so if you had to fly the meat home or something.
If you're going to fly meat home, that's going to be an additional cost. If you're going to take, most of the outfitters are going to get your trophy, meaning the antlers and usually the cape, back to a certain point of travel again. Maybe where they picked you up and met you. Maybe it's just going to get you back to your truck that was parked at a
gas
hotel
station or something.
or whatever. Exactly. But from that point on, it's going to be expected of you to incur all those extra expenses for getting that home. And if it's a plane flight, you better have talked to your airline prior to going on the hunt. Don't wait until you have 600 pounds of meat and a set of antlers and a cape sitting on a beach someplace along a river to go, well, how am I going to get this home? You need to make sure you have that program in place prior to going into the field. Some airlines will let you take the antlers back as extra luggage. Most anymore don't, as far as bringing moose back from Alaska.
I definitely think that's like one of the biggest things that people overlook is bringing trophies back home if you
Correct.
took a plane to go where you're going, because it's not like you're going to throw a moose into your
It ain't fitting in your duffel bag.
Yeah, like, we knew a guy that put
a
bear skull into his bag.
Yes.
I thought you talked about a guy that had a cape that you told me about. Somebody that took a cape home on the plane.
Yeah, I don't remember. Did he have the cape and the skull?
I thought you talked about like one of those like the
I've
suitcases above.
I've brought brown bear skulls back in my carry-on luggage.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Yeah, his carry-on. Frank was saying
Yeah.
something about a skull or a hide or something.
Yeah, but like I said, you'll want to talk with your airline, and set up a program. I mean, like I said, especially if you're doing meat, are you going to ship back raw, unprocessed meat, or are you going to have it processed somewhere near wherever you're hunting? If you're elk hunting in Montana, do you want to find a way to keep all that meat cold all the way back here to Pennsylvania or wherever you're from, or do you want to go to a local processor that's close to where you're hunting out there? So you'll want to cross those bridges prior to getting into the field. That should be part of your early planning. Before you even travel, is make sure you've got some kind of program in place, some phone numbers with you. Make sure you got your credit card with you, so that you can take care of those items.
Now, in all the years that you've traveled back and forth from PA to Alaska, has there been any airline that you've worked with that seems to be the most forgiving when it comes to hunting trips and bringing trophies back? I mean, if you don't, it's fine. I was just curious if there's ones to...
Boy, when we first started going up, literally every airline out there would let you bring back moose antlers. And you didn't have to split them. All you had to do is make sure the points were covered with like maybe some garden hose or cardboard and duct tape, just something so they weren't poking holes in everybody else's luggage. And the last time I looked into it, and it's been a few years now, Delta Airlines was the only one left that was still letting you fly with your antlers as extra luggage. Most everybody's making you
UPS
ship them,
or something.
you ship them somehow, and then obviously ground's going to be your most inexpensive way, but might take you a couple of months to
Yeah,
to
from
get something
Alaska.
back.
Obviously.
So, and I can remember guys, early on what they would do. We'd get 2 or 3 guys from a given area. They'd all kill their moose, and they had stuff they wanted to ship back, and maybe they wanted to bring some meat back with them. So what they would do is they'd go to the local processor, an expediter that was close to us at the time, and they'd put all their antlers in one crate. okay, on a pallet. They'd throw all their dirty clothes, all their hunting gear, everything that they knew they weren't going to need for a while, went in that crate. And they shipped it back and pulled their resources, and then took their meat back as their luggage,
That's actually
Yeah,
not a
that's
bad
smart.
idea.
which saved them a ton of money because they could take at that time your first 2 bags for free, years back. But but like I said, all that stuff keeps changing on a daily basis.
Yeah,
and-
especially with airlines, that stuff with security and different things, their rules are changing all the time. That stuff you really got to research and stay
Yes.
up on
I
before
mean,
you go places.
traveling with your firearm today,
Oh, yeah.
One airline wants you to have your gun and ammunition stored in one manner. Another airline will have something else. TSA will want something different.
Yeah, nobody's ever on the same page.
We actually had one of our guides was flying up one year and put TSA approved locks on his gun case. And the TSA agent in charge of things at the one airport that he had to cross through, fly out of, would not accept his locks because she was able to open them without him being around. He's like, they're TSA approved locks. I bought them right at the airport. Said TSA approved. She wouldn't accept them. He had to leave the airport.
Seems like some of them just want to be a pain in the
Well,
ass with hunters.
and maybe so, but the long and the short of it is those are the kind of obstacles you can run into today.
yeah.
Well, I had a problem this year last year going up. I guess some airlines or most airlines want you to have your ammo in a factory box. You can't just have them in a sleeve.
Or a reload.
Yeah, you
'Cause we
can't.
have-
No, you
okay.
can't have them in a reload thing.
Okay.
It has to be the factory box that you bought it in. Because I had some that were in a plastic like reload container, and then I had some other ones that were just in a sleeve, and I had them in my gun case. And they opened it up and they wouldn't approve it. They were like, "Oh, we can't let you, fly with this because it's not in the factory box that it came in." And I was like, "Well, I don't know what you want me to do here. Like, just throw it away then, I guess." He's like, "Well, let me go talk to my manager here and figure out what we can do." So he walked back and got him. He came out. The guy looked at, what I had sitting there. The sleeve was the thing they were most concerned about because it wasn't actually in any sort of box. It was just the sleeve of ammo. So he, disgusted, turned around, walked into the back, and I was just kind of standing there like, what do we do now? And he grabbed, a small piece of cardboard, walked back out and threw it at the guy that was giving me a hard time. He was like, "Make him a damn box." And I was like, okay, then apparently that's allowed. So you really never know what you're going to run into as far as that goes, but do as many things as you can to get it into your favor with the factory boxes and stuff like that. So give them fewer reasons to give you a hard time.
Yeah, this is probably a rarity, but when we were down, my dad's looking at booking an elk hunt, and there was one down in New Mexico he was really liking, and the guy had actually had a sister in Altoona, and he said, "Well, if you come with us and you get an elk, I'll transport your trophy and meat back free of charge. I'll just schedule a trip to go and see my sister because Altoona's not far from us in Erie."
Right.
When you look at New Mexico. So,
Yeah.
there's weird connections you can make in the hunting industry, which I've seen all over the place. Guys you've met up in Alaska and then where we shoot in Sagertown, that guy's got connections all over the place from guiding whitetail hunts and whatnot. So, I think, like you said, just be prepared and expect curveballs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that said, sometimes it might sound like we're bashing the airlines and TSA, and in the grand scheme of things, I honestly feel that it's actually pretty easy to travel with your firearms.
Yeah, no, like that, that story I just told, that's the most trouble I've ever had.
Yes.
And it was,
Yeah.
10 minutes out of my time. It wasn't like I was like, oh my
Yes.
God, I'm about to miss my plane because of these people. It was like,
Correct.
yeah, whatever, everything's cool.
Yeah, but for the most part, if you talk with your airlines, the snafus, the problems are minimal. They actually do make it pretty cordial experience traveling with your firearms. They really do. So before we get all the airlines mad at us.
Yeah. No, like you said, I've never had to fly with firearms and stuff, so I really can't speak on that much.
It's really not as difficult as you'd expect.
No, it's not at all.
So-
I've had people get a hold of me because, I fly with firearms quite a bit, and I did a lot when I was shooting. people get a hold of me. They're like, what do you have to do before you fly with a firearm? I'm like, I don't understand what you're asking me. Like,
I got to walk up to the gate.
Yeah, you just walk in there. It's just another bag. They just look at it a little bit closer. You don't have to fill out any paperwork or anything. You just
Sign
put
off.
it on the plane. Yeah.
Yeah, you sign a piece of paper saying that it's unloaded.
So you don't have to call ahead of time and let them know that you're bringing a firearm into the
Nope.
airport. You just
Show
walk
up
in
with
the
it.
case.
Show up
Yep.
with it.
Yeah, don't walk in with it in your hand.
I'm trying to fly with this.
Yeah, walk up to the register there. So
And another thing that you mentioned that I want to get into, because we had a problem with this years ago when I went up black bear hunting. You were talking about license and tags and stuff. That's something that a lot of people up in Alaska, especially, because once you get out of town, you are in the middle of nowhere. And I don't know how much it is anymore with different outfitters, but back when this particular thing happened, not every outfitter was able to sell license and tags in the field. Anymore, I feel like pretty much everyone does.
most of them do, but not all.
Yeah.
You know.
I know
It's another
the guy
thing. Do
we
your
work-
research.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the guy
see.
we work for can sell them in the field. So if you get out into the field and you don't have a license, he can just write you one right there in the field. Or if you need another tag, if you shoot something on the first day and you decide, I want to tack a bear hunt onto this moose hunt, he can just give you a tag right there and sign off, and you can get it situated there. You don't have to go back to town. But we had a couple of guys when I went up on my black bear hunt on the Tanana River that didn't ask any questions about license and tags or anything. They landed in Fairbanks and then got on I think they came in on a float plane, didn't they? Or did they come in
No,
on a boat?
they came down by boat.
Yeah.
Paul dropped them off by boat. But I remember seeing Paul's letters to them.
Yeah.
And he did tell them to buy your license and tags
in
prior.
town.
The license, he told them to get it before you even come up here. You can buy it online. You can get all
Yeah.
that stuff online.
Yeah, that's another thing to look into. If you can
know,
buy it online before.
And again, it's just one of those things. Be as prepared as you can when you get there. Do your homework. Pay attention when your guide's telling you need to buy this, you need to buy this, you need to have this.
Yeah.
He's not just telling you because he wants to sound important. He's telling you because it's things you're going to need.
Yeah, so these guys come into camp, and we're in the middle of nowhere now, not anywhere near town, and they get up on the bank. We're taking all their luggage and stuff out of the boat. Talking about what the game plan is. We're going to start hunting tomorrow and stuff. And while we're talking about this, the one guy goes, "So, where do we get our hunting licenses?" And we're like, "What do you mean? Like you don't have a hunting license?" He's like, "Well, no, I figured we could just get them right here in camp." And we're like, "No, you
Just
have
head down to Dick's Sporting Goods down the river a bit.
Well,
Yeah.
where we were at was an hour and a half ride from Fairbanks by vehicle to get into a boat that was another 2.5 hours downriver in a boat. So
And that's in perfect condition, saying your boat
that's
doesn't break
that's
down.
assuming everything went fine.
Yeah,
Correct.
which it never does."
So now these guys want to go hunting that evening. They have no license. We've got to turn around, boat ride
Yeah,
back
I
up.
was in 7th grade at the time, and as soon as they came in, I was like, "You got to be freaking kidding me with these guys!" And he came walking over.
He knew to have a license.
Yeah, Dad came walking over to me, and he was like, "I got to run these guys back to Fairbanks to get hunting licenses." He's like, "You can either stay here and camp by yourself," because it was just me and him in camp at the time. He's like, "You can either stay here by yourself or you can come in the boat." I was like, "There's not a chance in hell that I'm getting in a boat with you three to go up and down the river for no reason
You
because
say it's
they were
obviously
too dumb."
probably not the best environment because those guys are probably pissed at themselves.
No,
Oh
they
no,
were-
they're mad. They're mad at us.
Really?
Oh, of course, they
I
couldn't.
guess
never
I mean
their fault.
Yeah, they
easier to
did,
be
they
mad at
didn't
you
do
than
anything
themselves.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely not
Right.
gonna go on this trip." So he runs them up river to Fairbanks, and I'm sitting there in camp.
Now at this point, now it's dark, so it's an overnight stay in Fairbanks
yeah, so
because you're not going to come back down and run the Tanana River in the middle of the night
yeah,
and
exactly.
kill 2 people.
So the next day, I'm sitting there in camp, and I hear the boat coming, so I go out to meet them at the river. Just Dad shows up in the boat. I'm like, "What's going on?" He gets to Fairbanks, and they're like, "You know what? We're done with this. We're so sick of we got screwed. We don't want to hunt anymore." So he had to drive all the way back to camp, get their stuff, go all the way back to Fairbanks, drop it off to them, and then drive all the way back to camp. I was like, oh my God. So
What a week.
And all of that. Yeah, it literally took 4 days because it's, by the time you get to where you're going, there's not enough time to turn around and come back.
And all of it was because they didn't read the instructions.
Like you said, in the letter that they were given.
were given to them by the outfitter, So
The outfitter fully prepared them. They just weren't paying close enough attention.
They didn't pay attention to what they were supposed to do prior to coming into the field.
That's crazy that you could skip over that information. But
people do.
Yeah. So once you've got your you picked your outfitter, you've bought it, you've got there. Do we maybe want to go through just like what to expect? We'll use moose in Alaska for an example, but kind of what to expect for the week on hunting. Like just obviously you guys aren't going to restaurants to eat, but just kind of break down what to expect once you've gotten there.
Well, that's
kind of long-winded.
Well, there's a lot of parameters, a lot of variables there. I mean,
especially depending on the type of hunt.
Yes, I mean,
I guess it's pretty tough to say a moose hunt and generalize it for whitetail or elk.
Typically, what we do is a river hunt, so you're moving around with jet boats, and we do a lot of calling and stuff of that nature. Some of the moose hunts you book may be more of a spot and stalk type situation where you're hunting a little bit more terrain that has you walking ridges, looking down into smaller creek bottoms, and trying to glass for moose. And again, usually some calling will come into place at some point in that as well. But
you're with your guide for the whole thing. If you're doing a fully guided,
if you're doing a fully guided hunt, again, we're talking more about Alaska than most places because that's what we're most familiar with.
I would say most fully guided hunts you're with your guide.
Yes,
unless it's like a whitetail where you're in a tree stand.
Your guide's going to be with you, or at least within eye shot of you.
He has to call the shots, especially like on a moose.
Correct. So, you might, when you're calling, you might separate yourself by 50 yards or something just to help you hear if a moose is answering back. You'd be surprised how easy it is to just hear things differently if everybody's not standing in a group. Mm-hmm. Because no matter how many times you tell people, when I start to call, I need you to be quiet.
That's when they go for the candy bar.
Every single time. You will make a call, and the next sound you hear will be a zipper. Guaranteed.
Got to get in the backpack.
I gave that half a second.
And that usually goes on for the first 3 days. And then I blow my stack and yell and scream and holler and explain to them that you're not allowed candy bars anymore. You're not allowed this. I start throwing shit in the river. When I make a cow call, that doesn't mean you're supposed to spin in 3 circles and unzip your bag. It means you're supposed to be quiet. But
so I guess we'll assume that you've killed a moose or something. When it comes to the guide and the hunter, how much is on each one for processing the animal and getting it back to camp?
In a fully guided hunt, there's nothing on the hunter. He's done his job. He pulled the trigger. All right. Now, it's been my experience that most of the guys still want to get their hands dirty.
They want to be part of
that. Yeah,
they
want to be part of that. They came up. Most people come up to enjoy every aspect of it. I remember when I had my first whiskey, Tom.
You all right there, buddy?
Yeah, I just went down the wrong pipe.
Hey, you can't breathe whiskey.
Oxygen only, Tommy. Well, a mixture of oxygen, nitrogen, what else?
Yeah, whiskey in the lungs. Just
doesn't quite pan out.
No.
Yeah, we're back.
Anyway.
As you were saying.
Yeah, but if you booked a fully guided hunt, no, you shouldn't be expected to start packing that moose, cutting that moose up and properly fleshing the hide and doing all that kind of stuff.
Or like when we go to North Carolina and stuff, when you shoot a deer, they'll pull up with, a four-wheeler, or they'll drag it for you, get it back to camp. And most outfitters say, most of them that I've dealt with and that we've dealt with, it's like, yeah, we'll do it all for you. Or, if you want to help, by all means. I've seen a few that it's like a, $50 fee or whatever if you want a fully processed animal after you kill it. So it's never much of an upcharge that I have seen for smaller animals anyway.
Yeah. And like I said, and with the moose on a fully guided hunt, like I said, you're really not expected to do anything. If you want to pitch in and help because you want to be a part of that, that's great. Help is never turned down.
That's kind of how, I'm sure you've had all walks of life in camp, but for me, I don't think I could. The animal that I just killed, I don't think I could just sit back,
And
kick my
watch.
feet up and just watch somebody else. Like I'd want to be right in there.
Yeah.
helping
And
skin
that's
it,
95% of the people.
That's kind of what
You
I
know,
figured.
and a lot of times the people that don't help, maybe it's someone with some health issues or something, an older fella that
Yeah,
just
that's fair.
he just can't. He can't get in there and pack moose anymore and do it. But I promise you, he'll want to hold a leg. He'll want to do something. Help hold a game bag. Get it on. They're
gonna
gonna
be-
they're
they're
gonna
gonna do
want
what
to
they can.
do what they can. Yep. That very few people over the years, at least in my experience, want to do the old shoot and walk away kind of thing. Most of them want to be a part of all of it.
And then you're eating good in camp that night, usually, correct?
Yeah, I haven't had anybody that hoarded all their meat. They all, we get back to camp and
Back
it's
straps tonight.
green meat for the next few days and everything that comes with green meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. we all know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's
Little side story. We do a lot of our own processing, and I felt bad one time. My buddy Jeremiah shot a doe and brought it down the house for us to process. And this was a big doe, probably 120-pound doe. And by the time we processed it and cooked up some meat, sampled different sausages and everything, we sent him home with like a little grocery bag.
that was his fault though. He kept saying, "Let's try this. Let's try." I mean, there was a lot of guys at the house because around here there's a lot of tradition that comes with hunting. And when somebody gets a deer, anyone that you're friends with is like, "Where are you at?" Because we're coming.
Right.
So everybody showed up, and Jai just kept having us, throw the steaks on, throw the heart on. You guys made some Italian sausage. I'd love to try that. Somebody's going to get buns, and next thing you know, like,
Whole deer's gone.
half the deer's been eaten.
yeah.
But that was awfully kind of him to pretty much donate that and share it with us. But that was just a fun experience, little side story for you guys.
Fortunately, we end up killing enough of them around here that if someone's
Yeah.
short on meat, we can usually pass a little extra out.
Yeah, sure.
So,
It sounds like we've, pretty much covered what to expect on a fully guided hunt. You've covered how to you got in contact with somebody, you selected them, what to bring, what to expect kind of thing. I don't know. You have a lot of experience too. If you're deciding to go on a cheaper route and go self-guided, I'd like to talk a little bit about how to break that down, because that's a very intimidating task, I think, for somebody that's never done it.
well, I think if you're going to start trying to do a do-it-yourself hunt, I think you need to start by truthfully evaluating your own capabilities. Over the years, I've had to help a couple different people off the river up in Alaska that thought they were going to go do a do-it-yourself rafting trip.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And 3 days into their hunt, realized they were in a lot of trouble, and we just happened to stumble across them, with our jet boats, and probably could have made some money off them because they were in trouble and they knew it. But so know what your abilities and your limitations are, and plan your do-it-yourself hunt accordingly. Don't just
Do your homework.
don't jump in with
planning
both feet.
Just because you're a good whitetail hunter and you're fully capable of doing a fully, or a do-it-yourself whitetail hunt
In your
anywhere
own
in the
state.
lower 48, doesn't mean you're going to go up on a moose hunt or go somewhere in Canada or wherever.
Yeah.
Well, even like a mule deer hunt is vastly different than hunting whitetails in Pennsylvania. And I think, like you said, you got to do your homework.
You
really
can go out west on a
understand.
mule deer or elk hunt on a do-it-yourself deal, then you can still find yourself packing in 6, 8, 10, 12 miles. And if you're packing in that distance and the next day on your hunt you slip on some loose rock climbing up a hill and break a leg, what are you going to do? Did you stop and think about that before you dove into this adventure of a lifetime? You've got to really stop and think about everything that's about to take place and everything that could possibly take place.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess I do while we're talking about like the DIY stuff. I know Frank and Uncle Frank. I think you guys both use Onyx, correct?
yes.
Yeah, we
Yep.
both
Do
do.
you want to? I just started using it a little while ago, but I know you've got a lot more experience with it. If you want to kind of break down what Onyx is and how it can help you for those DIY hunts, if that's what you're going for.
That's probably better for you because
Yeah, I use
I'm more old school.
GPS style.
No, like
Compass.
just walk around.
Okay. Older school.
I mean, I have the GPS. I have my Onyx and stuff. And honestly, my Onyx I use more than anything just for property boundaries.
that's kind of what I got. it for.
That's the biggest reason I have my Onyx, and it can do a host of things far and beyond that are beneficial to you. But as you know, I'm the dad here, so I'm 55 years old. I wander around the woods looking at the moon and the stars and the sun and the wind and the trees, and
It's been pretty effective, though.
and pull a compass out. You know, and
I do carry a compass because, your electronics are never guaranteed.
correct.
And I am good with a
and
compass.
I've lost GPSs. I've been 12 miles from camp, in heavy timber and
pockets.
stuff, and the GPS is gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, now what are you doing? People start getting jumpy. Well, how are we going to get back to camp without a GPS? It's like, well, let's see. We've been on this ball of mud for how many tens of thousands of years, and
GPS
we
is only
populated the whole damn thing without a GPS. So I think we can figure our way back if we apply some common sense.
Yeah.
But so Whitey could
yeah,
probably
we'll
give you a little more
turn it to
insight
Frank
onto
here.
the electronic end of things.
Yeah, no, I've used Onyx for quite a few years now, and where I started using it was out in Nebraska because we had basically all we had out there was a paper map of the state park we were in. Or was it state or national we were in?
State.
Yeah, we were out in Nebraska, the Pine Ridge National or State Forest, sorry, and we started using Onyx out there because out there they take the property lines pretty seriously, and if pretty much everything out there is fenced, but a lot of the fences that you cross, you're still staying in the state park, or state forest, so you're allowed to cross them, but sometimes the fences that you're going to cross, you're going to go onto private property. So that's where we basically started using Onyx, was just for those property lines, and that's pretty much all I use it for now. I mean, I do mark some waypoints and lay tracks and stuff. I do like the laying tracks with them just to keep track of how far you walk in a day, just for fun. But I think that's the most important thing that it does, is it keeps you out of trouble as far as property lines go, and that's what I use it for 99% of the time.
And the guys that developed Onyx and are working for them have actually said that those property lines are within 15 feet. I mean,
they're pretty accurate.
I listened to a breakdown on how they do that. They go to like every county of every state and go like through their records, and that's how they're getting those lines.
Correct.
And that's why it takes basically a year to update, where they basically start on one side of the country, or I'm not sure how they pick it, but basically that's their full-time deal, is contacting counties all over the country and getting those property lines over and over and over again, just to make sure that they're up to date.
It really is a nice app, and and if I'm not mistaken, you can take like screenshots of maps.
Well, now, so you can do, it's called going offline with it, and you download anywhere from like a 5 mile to a 25 mile map. And if you go to a 5 mile, it's your best resolution.
Yep.
But that way, your phone literally does turn into a GPS. You have, I mean, for around here, 5 miles is plenty. In Alaska, that's not, I don't think.
No.
But you're not really concerned with the resolution. You're just trying to get to point A to B and back to A, So, but that's a really cool feature, that you can turn your phone onto airplane mode and your GPS still works. It tracks everything. You can put marks on the map, and then when you get back to online, it'll download all those points you picked onto the live map, which is really useful.
Yeah. No, and then like I said, even though I'm a little old school on that kind of stuff, and I'm slow to change, I can see huge advantages in that type of technology.
Compass will never show you a property line.
No.
And that's what's really nice.
No,
But
it
like you
won't.
said, that's probably the biggest thing that Onyx has for them, is that they have every property line in the 50 states.
Yep. Well, and they'll show trails
Oh, yeah.
on there.
Parking
stuff
areas,
stuff
access.
like correct. Different access zones and stuff like that. So, no, like you said, even though I'm not all big into the electronics and stuff of the hunting world, I do see a huge advantage to having that stuff and being familiar with it.
Yeah, I would definitely say if you're going on a DIY hunt, it's a huge tool to have in your pocket if you're going to plan something.
I think it's well worth it's like $99 a year for all 50 states.
So
I mean, it's
small investment when you look at the money you spend hunting over the years.
And it's I think it's $30 if you're going for one state. So like if you knew that you were never going to go to another state, you could pay it for $30 a year. But I mean, you see what people spend on other gear for hunting.
Correct.
To me, $100 is a very
for
minimal
something that's a lot more useful than
the newest camo or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so many different things you can spend your money on in the hunting industry, all sorts of accessories and whatnot. So I think,
although it could mean the difference between 2 bottles of whiskey and
that's true.
And a really cool app. I mean, sometimes you got to put things into perspective.
Priorities.
Right,
Yeah.
prioritize. You
need something to celebrate when you get that
back
moose
at
in a lifetime.
Look back at that list that your outfitter sent you. And what do I really need here?
I don't think very many of them don't put whiskey on that list.
No, I've yet to see whiskey put on the list yet. But you'd be
essential.
surprised how much of it comes into camp.
Yeah.
I think I'd want a nice bottle of whiskey for celebration. I mean, I think if I was spending the money on a moose hunt or any hunt, really, I'm not there to drink. But once it's over,
I saw a small pallet of booze come in one time
holy mackerel.
for 4 hunters. It was like a 3-foot by maybe a 30-inch by 30-inch pallet that had cases and cases of wine, cases of whiskey, cases of beer. It was stacked up.
So they were just doing an outdoor drinking party.
Oh,
Basically.
they got off the plane on the gravel bar, and I'm looking at them and going, guys, if all you wanted to do was come up here and get drunk, we could have stayed in Anchorage for a lot less money. You know? And in the end, it all stayed in camp.
Yeah.
So you guys were set.
No, we gave it away. I mean, to
The next
locals.
hunters. Well, you guys probably aren't even allowed to drink.
I don't drink in camp. I mean, if someone shoots a moose,
They want you to do
or
a
a bear or
shot
something, they want to have a celebratory drink. I'll have a drink with you, but I don't drink when we're hunting.
Then that's kind of how I feel like
yeah.
if you're going to spend that kind of money, I'd want to stay on my top of my game for the hunt. But I totally understand and probably would do the same if I got one. I'd want to celebrate a little bit.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not down on drinking. I just time and a place for everything. You know, and use your head. So.
I want to go back to that Onyx app real quick. I know we talked about how useful it is, once you get out to your DIY hunt, knowing property lines and everything. But I think it can really help picking a spot to do your DIY hunt, and I think that's something that's important to cover. You have to do your research, on where you're going to go. In this Onyx app, it has like terrain and fields.
And population. It has like how many people are in that area too, which can help. Like if you're going to a heavily populated area, you might want to venture
a lot more competition for the game you're chasing.
That's a good point, Tom.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, you can go on this app, and if you're hunting whitetail, you're going to look for like a food source. It'll tell you if there's agricultural fields. It'll tell you if there's woods, if there's ravines, creek bottoms. It'll literally tell you everything you really need to know as far as terrain. And I know you guys used it a lot. You guys spent hours studying maps and stuff before you went out on your Ohio hunt.
Yeah, and even in live time when we went into Ohio, I was driving and Frank the entire time was on Onyx.
Yeah, and same when we went
everything.
to Maryland on our turkey hunt last year. I was, the whole time we were driving there, the 5.5-hour trip there, and every day when we were sitting in camp, just idle, between hunts, I was just looking at maps, looking at different things that look intriguing to go find birds.
Turkey hunts are easy to do that because you can only hunt till noon, and now you've got all this time where you can be looking for new areas and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing for planning a DIY hunt is doing as much, I don't want to call it scouting, but as
Virtual
much
scouting.
virtual scouting, homework, before you actually go to hunt. Because when you're booking with a guided hunt, they've done the research. They know, well, if you've picked a reputable outfitter, they should know, where the animals are, how they're moving and everything.
Shouldn't be their first time to that area.
Yeah, they should be pretty well experienced. But if you're doing a DIY, you need to take the initiative to do that homework and find
something that an outfitter took 10 years to learn. You got to figure out as much as you can in the couple weeks leading up to your hunt to prepare yourself for that sort of thing.
Which is another thing, doing a DIY hunt, you have to decide what your goal is, because
be realistic as well.
Not to say that it's impossible, but like if you're doing a DIY hunt, you shouldn't expect to go out there and shoot a 160, 170 inch whitetail. You have to kind of classify what you think is a trophy. So I mean, I know you guys spent a lot of time out in Nebraska, and as far as I know, you guys really aren't out there chasing the big one, if you know.
Yeah, and they're around where we're at in Nebraska, but it's like you were saying with population. If you're hunting an insanely hunted chunk of ground, the deer are only going to be so big. And, every once in a while you'll get that, exceptional buck running through there. It gets bumped off of the private property that's bordering it. But for the most part, when you're hunting those chunks of public land, the size of the deer is generally going to shrink. So
Right.
you have to evaluate that and what you're looking for. If you want to go shoot a 180-inch deer, you'd probably be better suited getting a fully guided hunt.
Right. That's just something you got to look into. You got to classify, like, before you pick what kind of hunt you got to do, you kind of got to classify what your goal is, what your outcome is. If you're looking to have a good time with your buddies and enjoy hunting,
DIY all day.
yeah, DIY is definitely the route to go. But if you're after, your Boone and Crockett buck or something like that, I think a fully guided hunt might be better suited for you.
Well, and on that DIY hunt, DIY hunt, don't forget to make some phone calls and some contacts about the area you're going to go to. I mean, speak with the local fish and game out in that area. If by any chance you know people that live close by, maybe it's residents, old friends from school that live in the area, make some phone calls, talk to those people, and get some insight to the area that you're going to, rather than just sit and stick your nose in a map on in a book or on an app or something. If you can make some one-on-one contacts with people that can give you some guidance to help send you in a direction, do that. And then once you get there, try to make contacts with locals.
Yeah,
if
we
you
did
can-
out in Nebraska. We just go to the bars, and we do it in Maryland.
The
Just
old briar patch.
just go to the local bars and talk to people.
Yeah, meet some of those people, and it's not that everybody you talk to is going to say, "Oh yeah, come on to my farm and shoot it
Most
up
of them
and do
probably
this."
won't.
No, but they might be able to give you some good guidance on places that's open to the public, that is a little overlooked,
Or people that they know that would let you on their
correct,
property.
Exactly. So don't be don't be a shut in when you get out there. Try to meet some of the local people, open yourself up and talk to people and find out what's out
The
there.
one guy we met out in Nebraska, whatever 2 years ago was when the last time we went. We were actually out hunting one day, and we were close to a property line from close to some private property, and the one guy we were with was making a joke. He's like, "Oh yeah, if we go over there, we're Uncle Ned's kids, if whoever." He was like looking at Onyx, seeing who the property owner was. He's like, "Oh yeah, we're just this person's kids or whatever, just making a joke." And we went to the bar that night, and we were sitting there having dinner, and the one guy we were with bought someone at the bar a drink, and he came over and sat down and was bullshitting with us and having a drink. And he was like, "Yeah, my one buddy, he owns a farm over on this road," and he's like, "If you go talk to him, he'll probably let you." And as we're sitting there talking about it, the same guy that made the joke earlier pulls out Onyx, and he's looking around at the rough area that the guy said, and he's like, "What'd you say his name was?" And he said it, and it was the guy that he was making the joke about earlier, sneaking on his property.
So here we were hunting right next to a piece of property that there was an outside chance a knock on the door
And he'd
might have gotten you on. Now, it might not. I mean, a lot of times people tell you no, and it's not that they don't want hunters. It's just they've already got people hunting.
Yeah.
But the one farmer we talked to that did give us permission, we spent, an hour and a half talking to him about his tractors?
Yeah, we killed a good chunk of the day just talking about antique tractors with him because
Yeah.
my brother-in-law owns some old John Deeres, and this
But
guy
it
had
was a fun afternoon of
$500,000
conversation. I mean,
tractors.
And you got that connection for if you guys go back.
absolutely. But it was just cool to sit and talk to somebody. So, make those connections. You'll be surprised the doors that,
Yeah, it was worth losing a little bit of hunting time to make the contact.
yes.
Yeah, when we were in Maryland, me and Keith were talking to a guy at the Briar Patch, and he had no interest in turkey hunting, but was a big-time deer hunter, so he had no problem spilling all kinds of turkey knowledge.
Right.
And so me and Keith were talking to him, and he actually put us on a couple pretty good birds where we weren't even close to because the road was closed, and we further found out that the road's closed, but it's still accessible. So we went in there. But he ended up pissing off another guy at the bar because he's like, "Well, I turkey hunt, so you could shut up."
Yeah, he's
But he
sitting
was
there
very
talking. The
welcoming
guy was
to
like,
help us.
"Why don't you shut the hell up down there?"
Because he's like, "Well, I don't turkey hunt. I'll tell you everything you need to know." So me and Keith are just eating it up.
Yeah. And
yeah, so
those are the kind of things you'll run into. You spend a little time
Some guy that only cares
in
about
town,
killing ducks.
meeting some of the local people and striking up some friendships, and you might find that year one you're out there and the guy doesn't have room for you on his farm, but the third year you come out and you had dinner with him again, all of a sudden he's like, why don't you guys come over and I got a bunch of does I need shot off of my farm. Why don't you come over and clean some of them up for me? Mm-hmm. And then the next thing you know, you start building friendships.
Yeah,
and,
like it's a place you go. Like
right.
we used to go to Nebraska every single year.
I think that's advantageous for if you're going to do those DIY hunts. Maybe hit the same area a few times, and you can build those connections, like you said, instead of picking
and you're going to learn more
different states
every time
year.
you go someplace. Even if you're hunting a piece of public ground, the very first time you see it, it's tough to have it figured out.
That was Maryland for us. It was kind of an eye opener.
Yes.
You drove in, and we actually camped in the middle of the state forest. Mm-hmm. But it was like there was way too much ground to try and cover in the 4 or 5 days we were there. So we sectioned off a couple hundred acres each, that were like, this is what we're going to cover while we're here. We're going to try and learn this for following years. And we got on birds pretty much every day. We didn't kill anything, but we planned to go back. You had action.
That's right. And you learned something.
Yeah, so now when we go back, it's like, well, we can pick up where we left off.
Correct.
It took us a couple days to learn some things, and I feel like if we had a few more days, which I'm sure every hunter feels that way, if I just had one more day, I could have done it.
Always
that's
tomorrow.
what keeps you going back.
Exactly it.
That's what keeps you going back. So, but so make those connections and go back to the same areas and keep learning. One thing I'd like to talk about, though, guys, if you don't mind me directing the thing for a second.
Please take over. You run this show. It's your podcast.
Here, we'll switch seats real quick.
But we've talked about what to expect with an outfitter a little bit and things to do with DYIs and stuff like that. But we kind of skipped over picking an outfitter.
Yeah,
that's true.
You want to go do an outfitted hunt or a semi-guided hunt. Where do you start? Mm-hmm. If it's something you've never done before, how do you go? How are you going to go pick out this guy? Because the long and the short of it is, we'll just take the Harrisburg show that we were at here, a month ago, whatever. There's hundreds and hundreds of outfitters down there, and
that's an understatement.
Right, and they've all got trophy animals hanging on the walls. They all got pictures of
they're all the best
world-class animals, and everybody's got some way of telling you that they've got 100% success rate. Somehow they're going to put some kind of spin on it that everybody had a chance to kill, this Boone and Crockett animal, and I think we all know that that's not a realistic.
Mm-hmm. Unless they have a fence around the perimeter where you're hunting.
Right. If it's a true
if there's preserve anywhere in the name.
Fair chase hunt, you're probably not going to go and kill a 160 class whitetail every year. Mm-hmm. So if you're someone going out for the first time looking for that, what kind of things do you need to be aware of? And my advice there would be is quit looking at pictures of animals.
Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest thing people look at is pictures.
And it is. They all want to see
marketing on the outfitter.
They all want to see pictures of animals. They all want to hear about the success rates. And like I said, that success rate can have a lot of spins to it. Some of the guys out there, well, it's not my fault you missed. And that's very true. It's not. If a client pulls the trigger and misses an animal, that's not on the outfitter.
Yeah, but they could be talking about the shot that they gave him that was a 500-yard shot, and they told him they had to be prepared for 300.
Correct. So one of the first bits of advice I'm going to offer you there is quit looking at pictures of the animals.
I think this is actually probably a good write it in pen what you're getting at.
And just a little pre-write it in pen.
Yeah,
pre-pen.
Look for the pictures of the equipment. Look at the pictures of what you're going to be staying in. And when people always say, well, ask for references. Okay, so I'm an outfitter, and I had 10 guys in camp last year, and 3 of them killed moose, and 3 of them saw moose, and 4 of them didn't have any luck seeing moose. Well, who do you think I'm going to give you references for.
The 3 that killed
moose.
So those are extremely biased, probably as well.
Correct. So ask to.
Yeah, they could have had a terrible hunt
with,
other than killing an animal.
Yes, ask to speak with some of the unsuccessful people. Ask to see pictures of the equipment that you're. If I'm doing a river hunt for moose, well, what kind of boat am I going to be in? Let me see what you're running up and down.
So you could ask about like brands and stuff. Is that what you're getting at, or just see the quality of equipment?
The quality of it. Is it well kept? Is it well taken care of? Okay, I know we're staying in tents. Well, tent is a pretty broad statement.
Yeah, it could be a blue tarp over a rope.
That's a tent. So ask to see that stuff. Is your tent laying in a mud bath of moss and root balls and crap?
Is it up on a platform?
Or is it up on a wooden platform?
Is there a wood stove?
Is there a wood stove in it? Is there heat? Do I have a way of getting my clothes dry? What kind of gear do we have to cook our meals on? If we working off of, a little single burner stove that boil water to eat mountain houses, and which is fine if that's what you were told you were getting up front.
Yeah, if that's what you're expecting.
If I'm doing a sheep hunt or a goat hunt, I might be expecting just that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But make sure that, when you look at these things and ask these questions, that it fits what your expectations of the hunt is that you're looking for. Sometimes you're in an area that's so remote you can't have all those luxuries. But make sure you realize that going in. Make sure your outfitter is up front with you that, listen, I'm going to take you someplace that, we're going to have greater than average success rates of actually killing animals and taking them home. But you're going to have to sacrifice
a little comfort.
A little bit of comfort. You're going to sleep on a cot that's sitting on the ground. You're not going to have a wooden platform underneath you. Or maybe you're going to be eating mountain houses for 3 or 4 days, off of that single burner stove. So just make sure that you're asking the questions that are going to
prepare you for the
hunt
attitude
that you want.
Yeah.
Yes. If you're the guy that wants the most rugged, toughest, difficult hunt just to have a chance at something that nobody else does, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you can find a guy that can offer that to you, great. But if you're a guy that needs to have some running water in camp, you need to be able to take a shower every day.
River's right over there.
That could be, and I've played that game. That's you take a shower every day. You want to climb into that river. The water's a balmy 45 degrees this time of year. Dive right in.
Probably only takes about one shower for them to realize that.
Yep. So spend less time looking at animal pictures and more time looking at camp pictures, talking with past clients, both successful and unsuccessful. And if you can, try to talk to the guides. You're writing a check for $10, $15, $25, $30,000, who knows, depending on the hunt you're doing, to an outfitter who probably isn't the guy that's going to be with you in the field, maybe in camp, but not going to be your handheld guide. Try to talk to that guide. Most reputable outfitters have a core group of guides that come back year after year after year and work with them. When I first started going up there, the first guy I ever worked with, I ended up working with him for 20 years. And I worked with some other guys in between here and there, but was with one guy for damn near 20 years. And we saw the same guides, come back to camp every year. So we would quite often get calls from clients that were going to come up saying, hey, I talked to so-and-so and he worked with you last year and he was really happy with his hunt, and I'd like you to be my guide if you'd be my guide. And, a lot of times the guide can't make that promise. It's on the outfitter to assign people. But if you can talk to those people that are working the camps year in and year out, you can get some really good insight there to make sure that the hunt is going to meet your expectations.
So when you're like going around to those booths and everything, that's perfectly acceptable to ask for like past client contacts and stuff.
Absolutely.
A lot of people put it in their brochures for like phone numbers of past clients, because they'll ask the clients afterwards, like, hey, do you mind if I use you as a reference for people to call?
I haven't done a full guided hunt yet. The only hunts I've done have been like the DIY style. And I didn't realize you could. I mean, that's a good point, because you want to talk to the guys that are unsuccessful.
You're the one that's spending the money. You should ask every question you can and get specific with them. Like I said, too many people focus on the animal and they forget about what goes into getting it. You know, the first guy that I worked with up there had some of the best success rates of any outfitter in the state of Alaska when it came to moose hunting. And for a lot of people, we offered a really cushy camp. But for some people, it was still more rugged than what they wanted, you know. So, you know, and we had wood floors and canvas tents and, you know, wood stoves in every tent. And, you know, we had a cook tent. I mean, we had extra boats in camp. So if a boat broke down, you weren't stranded on the beach. You know, there's a perfect example of a question, you know, okay, so we're doing a river hunt with boats. How many extra boats do you have in camp and motors?
Yeah,
so
are we going to lose a day or two of hunting trying to
if my
fix this
boat
boat?
breaks down, you know, through no fault of anybody's, you know, mechanical
Happens.
items break. Yeah, they break. Do you have extra boats in camp so that if one goes down, we lose a half a day getting another boat in, or am I sitting on the beach hunting out of camp for the next 4 days? You know, those are things you want.
That's a really valid point.
You know. So that's why, you know, ask to see the equipment, you know, talk about the equipment that they have, what they're offering and stuff. You know, if food's important to you, ask what kind of meals they're going to have. Ask, is there a camp cook? You know, and if so, ask to talk to the camp cook. What kind of meals do you usually cook in camp? You know, what happens, you know? You're going to spend the money. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, when
And
you're
ask
spending that much
specific-
money,
specific questions.
Yeah, no question is rude at that point.
Correct.
You're not overstepping when you're spending all that money.
Yep. And when you're talking about success rates, you know, be blunt. Say, listen, I don't want to hear about shot opportunity. I don't want to hear about how many animals. How many guys went home with an animal?
With what they wanted.
With what they wanted. How many? You had 10 moose hunters last year. How many of them went home with a moose? You know, and just because that number let's say that number's 3, that doesn't mean 7 people got cheated. That means 3 people were fortunate enough to kill moose. 7 people had other experiences that may have been just as good, that just didn't end in them getting a moose. You know, so, you know, just because someone's not successful doesn't mean it was a bad hunt. It doesn't mean they were cheated out of anything. You know, if it's a true fair chase hunt, there's no guarantees. You know, I try to quantify that with people sometimes at the shows when I ask them. I said, I tell you what, you're a whitetail hunter. You know, most people, just about any place you go in the country, you can find
everybody
hunts whitetails. If I came out to your house for a week, could you, at your house, could you guarantee me a 150 class whitetail?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
I can't even do it myself.
Oh, really? But yet when someone flies to Alaska and is hunting millions of acres of ground, traveling 15 miles in any direction in a boat, chasing a moose that has to be 50 inches wide or 4
Yeah, you're
broad,
talking a good moose.
and now all of a sudden they want to know, why can't you guarantee me a moose in this one season, this little window of time? Why can't you guarantee me a
I'd
moose?
be hard pressed to even guarantee you a sighting of a deer in a week sometimes. I mean, I've got a pretty good odds that I could get you on seeing a deer. I'm not saying buck or doe, just a deer. But I don't think I could, you know,
Right.
say
I wouldn't guarantee
will-
someone a Pope and Young deer. You know,
I couldn't Pope
Pope and Youngs, but
Right. I
I'm
mean,
not going to guarantee someone else one.
Yeah, there aren't too many people that can tell you they go out on fair chase hunts and shoot 150 class whitetails every year,
Yeah,
and let alone in a 1 week period.
yeah, it takes them all season.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and most of the ones that do are doing a lot of traveling. They're hunting multiple states. They've got more time to hunt than most of us.
Yeah, they don't really work much during the hunting season. That's
Correct.
what I've seen.
Right.
The guys
They-
that are killing
they-
multiple bucks a year.
Yes, they have positioned themselves with through success at work or whatever, so that they have months of hunting at their disposal every year. And then even them will take weeks sometimes trying to kill the whitetail they want, and it might not even be might still only be a 125 or a 130 class animal, depending on where they're at. So I don't want to sound like I'm bashing guides, because you know I've worked for quite a few of them.
You
and
are one.
No, but and I do believe that most outfitters are honest, reputable outfitters. You know, there's no advantage to any outfitter to cheat you when you come up there.
Yeah.
You know, if he has any desire to stay in business, he has got to do the best job he can
And give you the best
and
experience.
give you the best experience he can. And I do believe that for the most part, the vast majority of them fall into that category.
And I feel like the
Yeah.
ones that are spending the money at the shows to put it, because the booths aren't free.
No.
You know, I think the guys that are spending the money to be at those shows probably are pretty reputable guys
Yes.
that, like you said, that
Yes, and
they
then
have your.
and they're probably
your-
going to be at that show again next year. You know?
Well, yeah, you've seen a lot of
Yeah.
times end up across from the same guy you were the year before.
Yes,
And
you know.
be like, hey,
So-
how you doing? How was your season? Kind of thing.
So if they were cheating people, you know,
They
how
wouldn't
long,
keep
how long do you
showing
think
up.
they're going to keep showing up at that show before people are having a lynch mob for them? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But I think probably the biggest thing I'm trying to relay here is that make sure that your hunt expectations meet the standards of what someone is selling. You know, it's
Yeah.
not that what they're selling is cheating you, but maybe they're giving you the best possible hunt for the area that they are in. You know, it's remoteness, it's
Or what's tailored to you, like you were saying,
correct.
for like physical limitations and stuff. These
Yes.
two outfitters might offer the exact same hunt, but this one is more tailored to your hunting style.
Correct.
So therefore, you're going to end up having a
Yes.
better hunt in general, even
Yes.
though the hunts are exactly the same supposedly.
Yep. Yeah,
You're
you just
getting
might
a better
make a better
hunt for
personal
you.
connection with somebody.
Even on
You
like
know?
a more hard-lined difference, like looking at black bear hunts,
Mm-hmm.
you've got guys that do bait, fair chase, or hunting with dogs.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't ask those kind of questions, you're just looking for a black bear hunt, and you thought you were going to be sitting in a tree stand, and next thing you know, you're loading up in the back of a truck with dogs, you're going to be like, well, what the hell is this?
Yes.
It's like you said, you got to ask the right questions, make sure that the
Yes.
hunt you are buying is what you are expecting.
What you were expecting, correct.
Like I said, that's a very like hard-lined, but it gets
No, but it is,
same
and-
for
and I think that's where a
other
lot
hunts.
of times where people that feel as though they were misled or cheated or deceived, they really didn't ask the right questions going in quite often. You know, so don't.
Yeah,
you know,
because the outfitter knows what he offers, so he doesn't necessarily know every little thing to tell you that you have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You might have one thing in mind, and you came to him, so he figures, okay, I'll tell you what the basis of this hunt is, but you didn't get every little detail out of him because you didn't ask the
the right
questions.
questions, correct. You know, and if he has 10 elk hunters and 5 of them shoot elk and 3 of them missed elk, maybe you want to talk to the 3 that missed. Because like I said, he's going to tell you, I was 80% as far as I'm concerned. I can't help it. Those 3 guys missed. And you talk to those 3 guys, and 2 of them look at you and go, "Yeah, it was 40 yards. I got excited and threw one right over his back." And
and that happens.
all right, sounds to me like the outfitter did his job.
Yeah.
The other guy tell you he took a shot and maybe it was a reload bullet and it didn't work. Something didn't function right. Okay, the outfitter did his job. Maybe one of the 3 will tell you, "Yeah, I missed, but it was a 200-yard shot, which is beyond my capabilities, and he wanted me to shoot, and I tried and missed and stuff." So maybe that one's a little different. If you're going on an elk hunt, maybe you should be prepared to shoot 200 yards.
I think
Yeah.
most
But
of the ones I've seen are
400.
I think 300 is the minimum
but
usually.
But some people can't.
Yeah.
And
know your own limitations.
Know your own limitations. So, but those are you really need to talk to those people that are in the middle. The guy that come home with a 400-inch elk.
He's going to tell you
He's
the
going to
best
tell you it's
story
the
ever.
greatest thing. And I've kind of always joked. I said, you could take a guy on the worst hunt in the world.
Yeah, treat him like shit the whole
treat
time.
him like shit the whole time. If he kills himself a 425-inch elk, it's going to be the greatest hunt he ever went on.
Yeah.
At the same time, you could take some guys on the hunt and wipe their ass for them every time and cater to their every need and show them 27 moose, and if one just wasn't big enough for him,
He's going to say there's no good bulls where those
he
guys
was
are
no
shooting.
cheating.
good bulls. He cheated me. He lied. He said I was going to do this or I was going to. It's like you got to put it into perspective. Sometimes you need to talk to a variety of people. So
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing is just talking to other people. And with the whole DIY thing, a buddy of mine was talking to me about going to Nebraska, and he, we were just talking about it, out of the blue. He brought it up, and I was like, oh, I've hunted Nebraska, so I'll go over some maps with you, places that I've hunted, because in Nebraska, like where we were at, that's 97% of the public land
Is in
in
the Pine Ridge
Nebraska
District.
is right where we were at. So I was like, odds are you're going to be where I was. So even though he had no idea I had already been in that spot, he was talking to me about it, so I brought him the knowledge that I had. Here's all my maps. Here's everything that I marked on Onyx. Go to these spots where I had success. So
you can even, speaking of Onyx, you can share points on Onyx too with your buddies. You can basically, the points you have on your phone, you could share to your buddy. So for things like that, or if you're hunting in groups, same thing. So that's just another advantage. To
so
Onyx.
literally, people that we're in Pennsylvania talking about hunting Nebraska. People that right around here, some of them may have hunted out there. So
there's quite a
talk
few
to
people around here who hunted out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually. Yeah.
And it's the same way anywhere.
Do
Just
your
talk to the people that
do your
that you hunt with. People that hunt all over the place most of the time. So if you talk to those people, odds are you're going to find somebody that has been where you want to go, and they can offer you some knowledge towards it. Even if it's a little bit, it's more than nothing.
DIY doesn't mean you have to do it blind. Every little scrap of information you can get. In today's world of social media.
Yeah. Information.
There's groups for every state.
Yes.
Like like for Pennsylvania, there's Hunting Pennsylvania, there's Hunting New York, Hunting Ohio. Like you can join Facebook groups that are just for hunting a certain state.
Talk to people in the Turkey Federation, the Elk Foundation. Talk to these different groups. You'll find most of them are willing to try to help you out if you tell them where you want to go, what you're doing.
Well, because there was a point in their life where they didn't know anything, and they probably talked to somebody else.
Nobody is born with all that knowledge.
Yeah,
you learn it over
right.
time. You learn it over time. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to, like you said, these hunting groups are in every state. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You might find you meet somebody that turns into a friend. And then all of a sudden you're going out there 4 years from now, not even so much to hunt, but to see this person you met.
Or you're planning hunts in some other state
with that guy.
With that person, correct. So
that's how my grandpa did a lot of his hunts. Because back then there wasn't any internet for those groups. There wasn't. I don't they didn't have GPSs either. But your only contacts were those trade shows and the guys you ended up on those hunts with. Because like when you go to camp in Alaska, you didn't.
Everybody's been in other camps. Everybody's been on other hunts.
So it was a network like that. And for my grandpa, even he got his sheep hunt was like a gift to him because he helped out his guide on an elk hunt. His guide actually got like food poisoning, and he ended up staying up there an extra 10 days or something with the guy, like past what his hunt was supposed to be. And he was like, once they got back and everything, he called him like 2 weeks later, and he's like, "Hey, I got you a hunt down in New Mexico for sheep. Like, go." Yep. And so that was just, it's like a network thing. The people in the outdoor industry are great guys for the vast majority
and
of
that
them.
kind of stuff is still, even with the social media today and the internet and stuff, that stuff still happens in camp. Guys in camp are still talking about other places they've been, good experiences they've had, bad experiences they've had, and that knowledge is just invaluable. Because even after these people have hunted places, and they might come away a little sore. Things didn't go quite the way they wanted. But then after a year's time goes by and they start looking back at that experience, and maybe they've been on a couple other hunts and they've got more things to judge that hunt on, they aren't quite as sore as they used to be. They look at it with a little more
experience and say, okay,
exactly.
Maybe it wasn't what I thought.
Yeah, it wasn't. Maybe that wasn't quite as bad as I thought. That guy really did kind of go out of his way here and there, and I was just a little bummed I didn't get something. But like I said, I do believe that the vast majority of outfitters out there, they do have your best interest at heart. Sometimes people, they get in camp and they start questioning, why do you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Well, because that's what's worked for us.
Because I want to get you an animal. That's why.
We could do this your way if you want, but you did pay for me to help you.
And I run into that every year. Every year somebody will be like, well, I think we should be doing this, and I think we should be doing that. And I'll usually even give in to them for a day.
That's what you were talking about, your trip around the sun.
Yeah. It's fine. If it'll make you feel better, we'll do it your way for a day or two, I know I still got 4 or 5 days after this, and I know they're the better 4 or 5 days. So we'll give in for a little bit. Let us do it your way, and we'll see what happens. And
at the end of the day, that's going to help them. Their experience is going to be that much better
they
because
usually start to understand better because they want to walk over there 2 miles. No matter how many times I tell them, I've been over there 2 miles. There's nothing over there to see, and it's hard to get to, and it's uncomfortable and miserable. It'll be a long day of wasted time. They don't want to believe that because it looks really good, and it's that
From
and
2 miles away.
We've all got it in us. I mean, we all want to see what's over that next hill. What's over that next hill?
Gets you in trouble.
And it does. But, and that's why I don't get necessarily mad at guys that want to do that. And I try to talk them out of it.
Well, I'm sure your first trip to Alaska, you probably did feel that. I wonder what's over that next spot.
Yeah, we talked the first time I was on the show with Brad and stuff. We talked about our pack from hell.
Yeah.
Well, that all started because we all just
went over the next ridge.
We just wanted to keep going, and someone saw something, 5 miles away that turned out to be 10 miles away, and
it wasn't even there.
And it wasn't even there. We stumbled into something else, and it was just a snowball effect into a disaster that turned out to be quite successful and was miserable for 3 days.
Yeah.
But you look back now, and it's kind of funny, but
You laugh about it.
And you laugh about it. But would I want to go that route to try to kill a moose every year? Well, hell no. I've killed a lot.
You found easier tactics.
There are ways of killing moose. That didn't take 3 days of getting them out afterwards. But yeah, it's all good out there in the end. Like I said, I do believe that the outfitters want you to be successful. And sometimes you'll question them, but in the end, there's no advantage to an outfitter taking your money and sending you home cheated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
No, you're definitely right. And the ones that I've talked to, I agree. Before we get totally wrapped up here, last week on the podcast, we had talked about we're doing a giveaway on hats. And obviously, if you've participated and you're listening this far, I'm hoping you already entered because it's over now. We've selected a winner, and the winner is Dan LaFuria. You're selected for our hat giveaway, so we'll make a post about it. But if you hear it on the podcast first, give us a message over on Instagram or
sure
Facebook.
We'll contact you.
Yeah, we'll contact him too. But I'm saying if he does it before the post. Either way, we'll let you know. And we got a couple different varieties of hats. You can pick one out, and you can help rep the brand and hopefully put something on the ground with that hat on this year. So, also another thing we do before any podcast ends is we do a write it in pen. I know we joked earlier about it, and we had a pre-pen from Uncle Frank, but I guess, Uncle Frank, you are our guest, so I think we'll hit you with another one. But maybe if you can, I know like your last one that you did was a lot more of a life deal, but maybe if you could gear it towards booking hunts, kind of keep that theme.
I'm going to go back to that area, that pre-write in ink type thing. Make sure that if you're looking for a fully guided hunt, make sure that the questions you ask are tailoring that hunt to your needs and limitations, and make sure that there's some kind of personal connection between you and the outfitter. If you're talking to this guy and he's saying all the right things, but he just doesn't feel like the kind of guy you'd like to hunt
the whole time
with,
you're like, this guy's an asshole. I don't like
well, not
him.
even that. He just doesn't seem like
Somebody you're going to
the
spend
guy
in camp
you'd
with
want
for a
to
couple
sit
weeks.
in camp with for 2
Yeah.
weeks. Maybe your daily views on life just don't seem to be lining up too good. Maybe he's a bunny hugger or something. Who knows?
Yeah, you never
I
know.
doubt that if he's an outfitter.
but you know what I'm saying. Make sure that you're getting some kind of feeling of a personal connection there.
Yeah, it'll make your hunt so much
That seems
better.
like, when you guys are sitting in camp at night or you get stuck in that tent during a 3-day storm that you can't hunt in, that he seems like someone you're going to enjoy having a conversation.
Make sure he knows a few magic tricks.
Yeah.
So like I said, make sure you're asking the right questions. Make sure that you're tailoring your outfitter to the type of hunt you're looking for.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point that I feel a lot of people look over. People only look for the animal. They don't look for the time that they're spending.
Yeah, stop looking at the pictures of the animals.
And you'll definitely have a much better hunt if the people you're with feel more like you've been friends with them for a long time, or you can build a friendship with them, as opposed to someone that you're like, I get he's just taking me on a hunt.
There's nothing better than at the end of hunting with someone for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever, that at the end of that hunt you're going, man, we got to get together and hunt.
Yeah, or they
down
invite you to
here,
their place.
or they invite you to someplace else. I mean, those are good feelings, know, and if you're tailoring your hunt when you're looking for that outfitter, that guide, if you feel like that person's someone that's going to go in that direction with you, you're probably looking at the right outfitter.
Good deal. Like we said, show season's pretty much over now. Well, I mean, there was a few more, but COVID-19 has blocked all
Pretty
those other
much
shows.
shut that down.
So this is now the time where if you guys are looking at doing hunts out of state, this is when you got to start making those phone calls. So make sure you guys are doing that while we're inside and getting quarantined. But like I said last week, the outdoors are never canceled. So make sure you guys, while you're isolated, you're still getting outside.